Shalom, you reached the He Pray channel. My name is Isaac Muwath. But first and foremost, I want to say, Call Halayim, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Harakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, 7:13:19, where I learned this truth from who rule well. Salutations to the Bakiyar, the elect, the 144,000. That's 12,000 men from each of the 12 tribes of Israel. 12 tribes of Israel consist of you so-called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous of America. The 144,000 being the governing body within the one-third. The rest of the one-third comprises of elect men, women, and children. Shalom to those Israelites scattered due to the diaspora and also the triangular trade. So our people will come looking like different ethnicities, having various complexions. So this is not a black thing. We're not the black Hebrew Israelites. We're just Hebrew Israelites. Shalom to those that died in this truth. It says the dead should be raised up first. Those that will be accompanying Yahweh Shah on his return, including our King, King Mashah, who is King David. As always, it's an honor and privilege, honor and blessing to continue to do this work. The water Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shah for answering my prayers and permitting me to do such. Baba Kashah Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shah allowed us to be an edifying blessing to at least one member of the elect, which this lesson is going to be entitled Money Reveals the Heart, which we know the heart is dealing with your mind, you know. And just to prove that, if I could remember where it's at, I think it's in 7. Let's switch to the KJV. Let's see. Just bear with me. Search. Spark. Just bear with me real quick. So, going to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2. I'm going to switch to the KJV standard, be a little bit easier to read. But this is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 1. It says, For the ungodly said, reasoning with themselves, but not aright. Right? What does it mean to reason? Reason from the 12th century, raison, the intellectual faculty that adopts actions to ends. Also, statement in an argument, statement of explanation or justification. Course, matter, subject, language, speech, thought, opinion. To reckon, think, understanding. Right? And, the spirit of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai has to be with you in order for you to have understanding, man. Right? So, were the ungodly reasoning with understanding? The answer is no, because it says not aright. Our life is short and tedious. Tedious meaning, laborious, or exhausting, I guess you could say too. Tedious, exhausting, wearisome, irksomely boring. And it's okay to have a boring life, man. But these people want that pleasure and that satisfaction now. That's why money is an instrument that reveals the minds of men. That's why these people take the bag. They could be bought off. They could be negotiated with, but those that reason right and have the understanding, they can't be bought off. They can't be negotiated with. It's synonymous to the Terminator. Case in point for me, you can't buy me off, man. I don't want your fucking money. So that's why it never worked, taking a bag or, wanting people to follow me or, taking a sabbatical. Because money don't move me, man. Death doesn't move me. I'm not, when, you got brothers that talk about people being put to death or going to be put to death or, dying. One individual now is this individual called the Prince of the Power or whatever, and how he died. Death doesn't move me either. You know, if you didn't, what moves me is failure, not the failure. How about Shimmy Al Shah? I know I wasn't 100% perfect when I first came into this truth, but when you're always told you ain't got nothing to work on, you're the most humblest person, you're this, you're that, and the third, you try to figure and create a scenario so you can figure out what you need to work on. Because, when you strive for perfection, you can't build on something that's already perfect. You have to see what's imperfect. It says, and in the death of a man, there is no remedy. You can't bring someone back from the spiritual world, man, and put them in a body. The only one that could do that is Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. We don't have the power to do that. That power wasn't given unto us. It says, neither was there any man known to have returned from the grave. For we are born of all adventure. And that's true, man. Let me see something. I want to see what AI thinks about this. Shit. We are born. And this also proves the power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, man. So this is AI. It says what the phrase actually means. We are born at all adventure equals we were born by chance, randomly, without purpose. In ancient English, at all adventure meant by accident, by luck, by random chance, without design, without divine purpose. So the wicked are basically saying we weren't created for a reason, we just happened, you know? And that's how Esau is too. And that's how a lot of you Jake are that follow the philosophies of this damn devil. It says they believe life is short, death is final, there is no judgment, there is no creator guiding anything. We're just born by chance. This is why they live recklessly. If you believe life is random, you live lawlessly. If you think you were born by accident, you don't fear the Most High, you don't believe in consequences, you chase pleasure, you oppress others, you live for the moment. And me personally, man, I have a track record, even before the truth, of holding what I thought was Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, I'll say, to a high degree, a high standard, man. Especially, some way, somehow, the scriptures. I never was really into that Muslim shit, that Quran shit. That was more so of a power move. The power move was to gang alliance when I was in the world, with the Muslims, because they were I know that city that I'm from, Issachar gets a lot of reputation, I'll say, but really it's the Muslims. But I never believed in that bullshit because one, they don't practice what they preach. It's all bullshit, which, some of that hypocritical modes of action is exhibited by some individuals that are in this truth as well, man. If, you're going to grow, it starts with your mind. You have to continually fortify your mind and maneuver through certain scenarios. And sometimes you lose, sometimes you win. But the result is the lesson taught, the spiritual lesson behind it, as you hopefully apply the scriptures to the best of your ability. So, that's how, you navigate through the world and, this truth and finding the truth, because you don't want to be around, individuals that are lighthearted toward doing what is right. It says, you don't believe in consequences, you chase pleasure, you oppress others. And these are those that, as it says, have the mind state of the ungodly. Individual that is mad that, they can't go and drink to oblivion, walking down the highways of hell, fucking with people, man. Or they're chasing a bag because they want that nice car, which that car doesn't bring bitches, man. It's Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua that adds those things onto you. So you chasing those things and wickedness, you know, you're going to sow onto yourself wickedness. That's money, cars, and hoes. That's what, all these niggas know. And it's much more than that. Now, yeah, maybe I have a nice car to some, but guess what? I didn't buy it. Somebody gifted it to me. Somebody gifted the car to me, and the car I don't pay anything. It's paid off. Yeah, it was the car that I prayed for, but it's nothing that I was chasing. A lot of you people, you chase this dream of being one of those that live the lifestyles of the rich and famous. For what? When it's just looking like you're running into a building that's on fire, that's about to implode or explode. It says you live for the moment. This is exactly what the wicked say in the rest of Wisdom of Solomon. Right. It says the righteous know we were created with purpose. The Bible contradicts that mind state or mindset. So it says Isaiah 45:14. It says, for thus saith Yahweh that created the heavens, the Most High himself that formed the earth and made it, which it should say the powers, starting with Yahweh Shah through the orders of his father Yahweh, formed the earth through bringing the elements together and made it. It wasn't by no Big Bang theory as these damn devils want you to believe. It says he have established it. He created it not in vain. So he didn't create all these things for nothing. He formed it to be inhabited. I am Yahweh and there is none else. It says, I have not spoken in secret in a dark place of the earth. I said not unto the seed of Jacob, seek ye me in vain. So he didn't tell us to seek him in vain, man, for nothing. Right? It says, I, Yahweh, speak righteousness. I declare things that are right. It says, assemble yourselves and come, draw near together, ye that are escaped of the nations, because our people are scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. And we're going to be delivered out of these heathen nations' hands. Because, slavery was a global thing, as we know, as we knew, through research and through the tutelage of the apostles and elders, a great millstone, that our people suffered captivity among all these nations. It says they have no knowledge that set up the wood of their graven image and pray unto a God that cannot save. So a lot of you people, you pray unto a God that cannot save in the form of Cesare Borgia, who the world inly calls Jesus Christ. But we pray unto someone that can save, man. Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 15, it says, "For lo, I will call all the families of the kingdoms of the north, saith Yahweh, and they shall come, and they shall set every one his throne at the entering of the gates of Jerusalem, and against all the walls thereof round about, and against all the cities of Judah." Let's start up. I'm going to start at verse 14. It says, "Then Yahweh said unto me, out of the north," which the northern hemisphere, North America, at evil, bad times shall break forth upon all the inhabitants of the land. And that might just be 2026, man. It might just be the purge, where these people are going to be killing each other just off a slight mood change. And there's not going to be anything people are going to be able to do about it. Like the brother Las Vegas sit downs, he posted a video about this dude that, cut up some nigga and put him to death in this city. And, you niggas are still out here acting like you can't be touched. It could be your next door neighbor that blows you away. That's how evil these times are becoming. And eventually it's going to be all out war. I used to say race wars 2011. But this is going to be a multi-layered war, civil war. Also, simultaneously, you're going to have World War III going on. So Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua set this place up to fail. It says, "For lo, I will call all the families of the kingdoms of the north, saith Yahweh, and they shall come, and they shall set every one his throne at the entering of the gates of Jerusalem, and against all the walls thereof round about, and against all the cities of Yahweh. And I will utter my judgments against them, touching all their wickedness, who have forsaken me." And this is the only ones that can forsake Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, the Israelites, "and have burned incense unto other gods." And one being is either Allah or Jesus Christ, man. These are other gods. "And worshipped the works of their own hands. Thou therefore gird up thy loins and arise and speak unto them all that I command thee. Be not dismayed at their faces, lest I confound thee before them." In the Most High, he can put the spirit on you in which you're confounded. Spiritually stumped. "For behold, I have made thee this day a defense city, and an armed pillar and brazen walls against the whole land, against the kings of Yahweh, against the princes thereof, against the priests thereof, and against the people of the land. So the Most High set a hedge, which is the angels that are protecting us from these people. If you are of the ones who the Heavenly Father and the Son has his eyes upon, because we know there's a lot of niggas, whatever camp it may be, that are not right, that the spiritual world on the left hand side is going to be whooping they fucking ass, man, because they don't know them. It says, and they shall fight against thee, but they shall not prevail against thee, for I am with thee. So you have to believe that Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua is with you. I can't give you my faith. You have to build your own. You have to build your own personal relationship with Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, man. You have to put your own prayers into work and your own prayers of thanks toward Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua and the prayers that he answers for you. Whether if he allows you to think you're written off or not, because he's the one that puts it into the minds of men to utter the words that they say. You know, and a lot of the times, sometimes the messenger is the one that gets, not the messenger. Sometimes it's the rebuker that is wrong, man. Look at Job. Look when Yahweh said, this is my son, who am well pleased, which was basically rebuking those that thought that, you know, they were judging the right. It says, for I am with thee, saith Yahweh, to deliver thee. And, you know, the Heavenly Father will show you signs. So you think he is showing you signs in wickedness? Do you believe in a wicked God? Or do you believe in a God that says who he is? And he's a man that he should not lie. And he says he has mercy and healing in his wings. To believe on him, as the scripture has said, man. This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 13. It says, for the Most High made not death, neither have he pleasure in the destruction of the living. You know, but death came into the world because of sin, the transgression of the law. And it was only something that is, or it was only something that was associated with these heathen nations, man. That's the reason why they were jealous of us, because we were immortal. So they had to get us to go off in order to relinquish our power and cut off that connection toward our power, which is Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, man. You know, it says for he created all things that they might have their being, and the generations of the world were healthful, right? And there is no poison of destruction in them, nor the kingdom of death upon the earth. And that's how it was originally made. But the spirit that the so-called white man has, that was in the same abode of the serpent, was jealous. And this damn devil is jealous to this day. That's why he doesn't want you jakes to make it. And you'll never make it. You'll get just enough, or the illusion of you having a possibility of getting up out of the bucket, man, with the rest of the crabs. But those are all just illusions, because we're starting to find out that, you know, these celebrities These entertainers, these athletes, they're all set up, man. It says, for righteousness is immortal, but ungodly men with their works and words called it to them. For when they thought to have it their friend, so these are, uh, you could equate this to, individuals who aren't right, man. Because even among Israelites, there's ungodly men. You know, it says they consume to not. So a lot of you that you think that the Heavenly Father is dealing with you, and a lot of it is due to favoritism and weaken at certain things that you may do because you might have been in the truth for a considerable amount of time, but eventually you're gonna come to not because you're never of the elect. You're never of the righteous. It says it made a covenant with it because they are worthy to take part with it. Make sure. See what AI says. So it says the chapter is contrasting righteousness, which brings life, wisdom, and alignment with the Most High, with ungodliness, which brings separation, confusion, and ultimately destruction. It says to understand it, you have to look at the previous lines. Verse 12, seek not death in the air of your life. Verse 13, for the Most High made not death. Verse 14, there is no poison of destruction in them. So it refers to death and destruction, not as a natural end, but as a spiritual consequence of wickedness. Breakdown of the meaning: ungodly men call it to them. They invite death and destruction into their lives, not because the Most High sends it, but because their actions attract it. So what does your actions attract? You know, when your actions attract things that are not contrary to the truth, eventually you end up, going back into the world, man, to be more comfortable. In contrast, if your actions align with the truth, you're going to continue to fight for the truth, no matter what. It says, when they thought to have it their friend, they treat destructive behavior as if it's harmless, beneficial, or even empowering. And that's how a lot of you are, man. What do you call it? You you know what you're doing is wrong, but you do it anyway, man. You know? It says, in other words, they think sin is a ally, which, sin is not an ally, man. There's nothing wrong with abiding in, the ways of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua. Actually, it feels more comfortable than the alternative. It says they consumed to not. instead of gaining anything, they end up empty, ruined, or spiritually dead. And that's going to happen to a lot of these niggas, man. And has happened to a lot of niggas, man. And then a lot of you niggas, you think you're so good that you don't consider that it could happen to you. And then when you judge, you don't consider that you're going to receive the same mercy. Right? It says, made a covenant with it, their lifestyle becomes a kind of agreement or partnership with destruction, not literally signing a contract, but living in a way that aligns them with death rather than life. And that's you going against the doctrine, teaching things that you ought not, taking the bag, being a traitor, because basically that's what it means when you take your hand off the plow. You're considered a traitor. So contrary to popular belief, I ain't never took my hand off the plow, man. But it says, because they are worthy to take part with it, their choices make them fit to share in the consequences. This isn't about predestination, it's about cause and effect. It says how it fits the chapter's message. Chapter 1 teaches, and that's it on that. But anyway, going back to your mind, verse 2, it says, for we are born at all adventure, and we shall be hereafter, as though we have never been. For the breath is in our nostrils, is as smoke, and a little spark in the moving of our heart, which being extinguished, our body shall be turned into ashes, and our spirit shall vanish as the soft air. And that spark is your spirit. And that's housed in your mind, in your pineal gland. That's why you don't want to calcify your pineal gland, man, which a lot of you suffer from heavy calcification. So it says, so born at all venture is false doctrine spoken by the wicked, not truth. So going with the original lesson or topic, I'm going to the book of Sirach, 29. I'm going to start at verse 1. It says, he that is merciful will lend unto his brother. So you have to have that characteristic about yourself too, man. You got to be willing to lend and to help, which I always had that spirit, man. Even when I was a kid, I kind of felt bad that, there were people that had worse situations than I did, and, and instead of, living in excess, I wanted to live more moderate, more modest. And this is as a kid, as a, adolescence. And, I've maintained that even till this day. I don't have a problem with giving and helping, what you should do, especially if you know that you have you could relate it to the army. You have a small platoon. That's your band of brothers, man. You're gonna make sure the least of them is good, man. You know, because you're gonna be willing to die for any of them. And that's something I see when I see Howard Shaw, an individual that is willing to die for his brothers. A lot of you wouldn't die for shit. Don't, and then they'll make statements. You won't want to die for the truth. You're supposed to live for the truth. You're supposed to live. Well, where has that mentality got you? Or all these other individuals, they all say the same thing. Oh, I'm living for the truth. In my perspective, I'm dying. I'm denying myself. I'm denying the world. I'm denying going back into the world. I'm denying wickedness. I'm dying. I'm willing to give my last breath for the truth, for Yahweh Ba'ashem Shai. I'm dying. Because a lot of you say you live, and then something falls in your lap that takes your mind off of the fear of failure. Because then your purpose becomes pleasure. And then you end up selling out. You end up getting the bag because you want to live so much that it, blurred your vision, your foresight. It says, and he that strengtheneth his hand keepeth the commandments. Right. Meaning you being charitable. As it says, and it doesn't necessarily mean, you giving money when it's dealing with charity. Charity could come in the form of these videos. Regardless if someone lies and says that they're not edifying, just to fuck with your spirit. And then, be double-minded and turn around and say that they are edifying. Being double-minded, saying that the Most High loves you, then saying that he's going to put you to death. Being double-minded, saying that you're forgiven, and then next minute you're not. 1 minute is cool, the next minute is not. And then these same individuals have the nerve to say that you're double-minded. Not knowing that that same wicked spirit that was on the producer of it hopped on them, not knowing that they have been affected. A lot of you have a dormant demon. I think they call it latency period, where you don't see any symptoms. Well, shit, I've been 13 years outside of GMS. You seen my latency period. And all I ever said was, just let me do the work. Let me be about my father's business. I ain't got to talk shit. I ain't got to make no video. I ain't got to do none of that. But until when you start causing other brothers to fall because of your wickedness, then, it's a problem. That's not Yahweh Bashim Yahshua, because when it happens onto you, you niggas can't take it. You niggas fall back into the world quick. You niggas get disgruntled, make videos and talk about how you're King David and this prophet didn't matter and that prophet didn't matter and Yahweh Shai ain't this and Yahweh Shai ain't that. Well, shit, I kept it straight the whole fucking time, man. I might have said one Campbell, I'm King David, but that was just to show you how stupid and ludicrous it is for niggas to say that, you know? And then, I confirmed that why be King David when I could just be me? I'm cool with me. A lot of you ain't even cool with your inside your own skin, man. You know? It says, lend to thy neighbor in time of his need, and pay thou neighbor again in due season. So you need to pay in due season. It says, keep thy word and deal faithfully with him, and thou shalt always find the thing that is necessary for thee. Right? You gotta keep your word, man. And from experience, as a young man, learning, don't depend on someone else, or don't be dependent on someone else that is crucial in making your word good, man. Because that's a problem that, I had a lot. I recognized a lot that a lot of times my word wasn't good because I depended on somebody else's word to be good in order to make my word good. You can't depend on somebody that has a track record of their word not being shit. And that's, one of the problems that I had to take accountability for and, stop depending on people. Now other times it was the truth, but, a lot of you want to paint your own narrative. And I always say when we're in the kingdom, everything's going to be played back. Everybody's going to know what really happened. It says, many when a thing was lent them, reckoned it to be found, and put them to trouble that helped them. Yep. It says, many when a thing was lent them, they borrowed, reckoned it to be found, and put them to trouble that helped them. So, let me see something real quick. It says, many borrowers treat what was lent to them as if it were theirs to keep. They act like the item or money was found, not borrowed. In other words, they don't feel obligated to return it. And that's a lot of you. A lot of you niggas in this truth, you have that same sentiment, man. Some of you be like, well, we're just gonna steal and extort. He's not a man of the Lord anyway. It don't work like that, man. It says, till he have received, he will kiss a man's hand, and for his neighbor's money he will speak submissively. But when he should repay, he will prolong the time and return words of grief and complain of the time, you know? And that's a lot of you niggas in this fucking truth. Or not fucking truth. That's a lot of you niggas in this truth, man. That's a nigga mentality. But a lot of you niggas, you owe me money. Big money too, you know? And I'm a cunt's hair away from saying whatever I gave for it to be a curse on you. It says, if he prevail, he shall hardly receive the half, and he will count as if he had found it. If not, he have deprived him of his money, and he have gotten him an enemy without cause. He payeth him with cursings and railings, and for honor he will pay him disgrace. Many therefore have refused to lend for other men's ill dealing, you know, and that's true. But with me, I even overlook the mistreatment, you know, as a child. That's how much of a forgiving spirit that I have, man. I'll just, water under the bridge, you know. It says fearing to be frauded. So even when I lend or the niggas say that they're gonna pay back or they're gonna pay what they owe, I already feel like it's already lost. I ain't never gonna get it back. A lot of you weren't raised on, a lot of you weren't taught principles when you were growing up, man. And I understand that. I understand the lens that you look in the world in is different than one who had some sort of connection to the spirit of truth, man. Right? It says, many therefore have refused to lend for other men's ill dealing, fearing to be defrauded, right? Yet have thou patience with a poor, Slakia, yet have thou patience with a man in poor estate, and delay not to show him mercy. Right? So even despite certain niggas in their defraudment, you still got to be a giving spirit, man. And you know, my the thing that I went off on was I gave when I didn't even have it. I would give my last and be broke, and just wait until when I got paid again, man, and then do it all over again because that was my spirit in the world, man. I remember one day I went to go help this now what I consider now associate, and I think I had bought like some pizza, and I was gonna give him some money for his rent, And when I opened the door, my ex was opened the door with a robe and shit on, and you hear this nigga come out, you know, acting like he was the big man on campus and shit. And despite the betrayal, I still gave him that money. And I still gave him that food. In the long run, who you think hurt worse, him or me? And mind you, this is in the world. I ended up taking the bitch back and dogging her the fuck out. As that bitch should. It was a white bitch. Which she probably was a Jake because, her father was Italian. And she acted like a fucking nigga. But that's just a small example, of you having those attributes in you to do good regardless. Because, as I always said, don't thank me, thank Yahweh Hashem Yahshua, because that's who I'm doing it for anyway. Just as, the Most High ever put the spirit on me to fuck a nigga up or send his ass back to the spirit world. If I don't do that, don't thank me, thank Yahweh Hashem Yahshua. Now, do I have what it takes to do those things, to kill somebody? I believe I do. But it's not something that I'm looking for. I play the same thing that everyone else plays. I wish a nigga would, and I have a right to defend myself, but I'm not playing offense. And I don't fear none of you fucking niggas either. I'm not running away from shit as when the wicked flee. It says, help the poor for the commandment's sake. Yeah, for Yahweh Hashem Yahshua's sake. That's why I help. Because a lot of you, you're just a bunch of pieces of shit. And you're a piece of shit. That's why good things don't happen to you. That's why good things never happen to you. Because you're a piece of shit. And a lot of it is a lot of you have jealousy, man. You want everyone else to think that someone's jealous of you. Going back to this one individual, who the fuck is jealous of an ugly fucking nigga that doesn't care about themselves? They gotta fuck everybody they see. They can't hold a steady job. They have to work job getting fired for touching the kids. But that's just the demon that, a lot of you listen to those thoughts in your mind. Oh, this dude, he's this, he's that, he's this, he's that. But where's the pattern? Where's the track record? It says, and turn him not away because of his poverty. Lose thy money for thy brother and thy friend, and let it not rust under stone to be lost. And a lot of times you get extra money just so you can lend, man. That's the reason why, that's the only reason why I want to get a better job, is to be able to pay tithes and to help those that are in need. That was the whole purpose of me having a plant job, was to help. And the Most High put the spirit on me to refrain and giving my money during fellowship. One, because there was a lot of wickedness going on in result of it. And two, to show that, these niggas ain't your brothers. Because that's how you find a true friend, when that spigot is turned off. So why would I want to be around some phony ass niggas, man? And you could be in this truth all the way to the missiles come and still get hit with a nuclear missile, no matter what camp you're in, because you're a phony nigga. It says, lay up thy treasure according to the commandments of the Most High, and it shall bring thee more profit than gold. Shut up arms in thy storehouses, and it shall deliver thee from all affliction. It shall fight for thee against thy enemies better than a mighty shield and strong spear. A honest man is a surety for his neighbor, but he that is impudent will forsake him. You know? It says, a righteous, upright person will stand by his neighbor. If he agrees to be surety, he does it sincerely and responsibly. He keeps his word and supports the person he promised to help. In the context of this chapter, this is tied to loyalty, integrity, and reliability. But he that is impudent will forsake him. This means a shameless or dishonorable person will abandon the one he promised to help. He won't stand by his commitments. When trouble comes, he disappears. And that's a lot of you fucking niggas, man. I call spades a spade. I don't care what camp you're in. You know? Spade is a spade, man. Let's see, I'll go to 7. So going back to, it says a borrower will act friendly until he gets what he wants. And that's a lot of you individuals, man. You act like, you cool with someone, just to get what you can get out of them. No. It says when it's time to repay, he delays, makes excuses, and becomes hostile. That's a sign of a nigga, man. Like I said, there's a lot of you niggas that owe me money. You know? And for some of you, hey, let it be a curse on you. Let that money be a curse on you fucking nigga. And mind you, I didn't want the fucking money back any damn way. Because the Most High, he got me, man. I eat steak damn near every night, man. Everybody around me, they doing okay. Well, I get mine back from Yahweh Shem Shah. As long as my prayers are answered still, I'm all good. It says if you stop giving, he disappears. And that's something that happened to, I stopped paying for fellowship just to get drunk and walk the street to 4 o'clock in the morning, 3 or 4 in the morning, fucking with people. And when I stopped doing that, and people lost their desire to go to camp, because that was a sifter. Individual lost their desire to want to go to camp because they, their whole thing was just the fellowship, just to drink and eat chicken. And then when I stopped doing that, that's another turning point. It says this is how you test who is real, and it was all just a test, man. I'm not just gonna be in, around some people and just, oh yeah, this is the truth. and not try them. If that's the case, I would have still been in that Islam shit. But because I test and ask questions and tried to learn and try to apply, I found out they were full of shit. They don't even practice what they preach. You know, drug dealing, killing, raping, robbery, defrauding their brother, all the shit. And I would have never knew that unless I tested them. You never know who's your friends until you put them through a test. And that's how I know a lot of you are full of shit. It says, this is the origin of the saying, withdraw thy money to see who your friends are. And, you know, you're going to rebuke me for, oh, he stopped giving his money for fellowship. Oh. Yeah, there was a purpose behind that, man. And sometimes I wonder if you niggas think I'm mentally retarded or something. Like grew up on the fucking short bus or something, motherfucker. That's what I kind of, or you might look at my appearance and you might think some bullshit or something. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with you people, man. But mind you, I'm trained to fucking go. You know, Yahweh Shem Yahshua put me through enough things prior to the truth to prepare me for the truth and niggas in the truth. It says the scripture shows that access creates fake loyalty. Right. That's another thing you can't, you got to try to suppress that familiarity. It says when the access is gone, the true spirit of a man is revealed. The Most High uses lack as a sifter. So you start to see who's really about it and who's not. There's a lot of you fake ass niggas out there though. And you know, I have to stand before Yahweh Shem Yahshua just as everybody else. But you know, one thing I'm gonna know is I'm never gonna hear that question, what about Izzy? Or Azimawaf when it comes to mercy, man. That's something I ain't gonna have to hear. And you know, not saying Izzy or Azimawaf when it's concerning me, but when it's concerning any of you. This is Proverbs chapter 19, verse 1. It says, better is the poor that walketh in his integrity than he that is perverse, which means to be wicked in his lips, and is a fool. You know, saying things that are contrary to the scriptures, contrary to the truth. And sometimes the spirit reveals certain things. And sometimes a lying spirit is fucking with you. And how do you know if a lying spirit is fucking with you? If it aligns according to the scriptures. You know? Verse 2, it says also that the soul be without knowledge. It is not good. And he that hasteneth with his feet sinneth. The foolish man, or the foolishness of man, perverteth his way, and his mind fretteth against Yahweh. We'll read that in the NLT. It says, better Better to be poor and honest than to be dishonest and a fool. Enthusiasm without knowledge is no good. Haste makes mistakes. People ruin their lives by their own foolishness and then are angry at Yahweh Shem Shah. You know, and I ain't angry at Yahweh Shem Shah. Never was. Because I know he's doing something, man. I always knew he was doing something. You know? And a lot of the things that he did, I said it was gonna happen before I was even out of GMS. It says, wealth makes many friends, poverty drives them all away. You know? So a lot of times, man, it's not that they are your real brothers. It's because you got the spigot on, man. It says, riches attract opportunists. And you have that with these apostates, not brothers. Because a brother ain't gonna give a fuck about how much money you got or how much money you giving, man. A brother's gonna just be making sure you get home safely. You know, whether if you don't come back home or not. It says poverty exposes true loyalty. And mind you, even King Solomon said he only found one righteous man. You know, out of 1,000. So I mean, what do you expect? You know, like I said, when they put the speed on niggas, that's when niggas is gonna fold the fuck up. Then we're gonna see who's really uh ready to give it all for this truth, man. For Yahweh Shem Shah. And who was just, acting. Because there's a lot of actors. A lot of you went to drama class and shit. You know? Now, if I'm acting or if I'm an agent of Satan, then why am I doing the things of Yahweh Shem Shah then? You know, if I'm being deluged, I'm in delusion, then, I'm perfectly fine with going back to the spirit world. Why won't Yahweh Shem Shah kill me then? Put me to death. Put me out my misery. He had 13 years outside of Great Millstone for it to happen. But miraculously, and on my part, thankfully, he's allowed me to continue to do this work, man. And, hopefully he just takes away the spirit of me calling out the, I'll say the miscarry or the wickedness of a lot of you niggas, man, which has been revealed. What, one, two, three, four, damn near half the camp, and it ain't done yet. Y'all Boston, y'all sure ain't done yet. It says, this matches Sirach perfectly, same spirit, same wisdom. Proverbs chapter 14, verse 20, it says, the poor is hated even of his own neighbor, but the rich has many friends. It says this is Hebrew experience across all ages. People love the benefit, not the man. And that's something you have to consider, man, when, you're walking on this plane, you know? is there's not a lot of true brothers that really do care, man. You know, they're just there for the benefit. You see, I'm not there for the benefit. I'm there to lay down my life without moments pause if it comes down to it, because I know that's what Yahweh Shah would have did. And I know a lot of you wouldn't even thank a nigga for risking his life for you. You know, you'll go turn around and call that nigga wicked. Type of character a lot of you fucking niggas got, man. And then you got the nerve to call someone bugged out. Oh, okay, yeah. Shit, we'll see in 2026. It says, when you withdraw my money, you withdraw the benefit, and the fake friends evaporate. Oh, Slaki, let me read it again. It says, when you withdraw thy money, you withdraw the benefit, and the fake friends evaporate. Let me see. Because what does it say, man? What does the scriptures really say? Yeah, this is Sirach chapter 6, verse 7. This is the source of the teaching commonly paraphrased as test thy friends. Verse says, if thou wouldest get a friend, prove him first, and be not hasty to credit him. This is the exact biblical foundation for the idea of testing or proving a friend before trusting him. So a lot of you expect to be trusted and never been tested. And all that shit about, I gotta automatically think you're a brother just because you know the truth. That's a dumbass way to fucking be thinking, man. That just because you call on the names of Yahweh Shah, automatically you supposed to get the floodgates open for you. That's bullshit. You gotta be tested. It says what the verse means: proven first, test, examine, debt, observe. Because I don't trust nobody, man. I had a small circle even when I was in the world, especially dealing with the nigga that I mentioned earlier, man. A lot of these niggas is it's a bunch of scumbags, man. You know? It says don't accept someone as a friend too quickly. Don't trust people based on words alone. Time, adversity, and consistency reveal character. Some people are friends for their own occasion. And the first day I met that nigga you call, I knew he was a scumbag, man. I know the reason why that nigga uh, likes to grow his hair out, because he likes to fuck the bitches that braid it. And that's what I perceived the first day I met him, talking about he got his hair braided and, he hit that. And I was like, man, that bitch probably got a nigga. You probably don't know if she's dealing with a nigga or not. But that's him not being able to control his appetites, yet he going around and pointing at everybody else. This motherfucker will never even get on the conference call to edify, the rest of the flock, the young brothers in the truth, man. You know? So most of my edification and, my learning came from Apostle Rakai and Elder Bishop Manatazak. And then, of course, Apostle Tahar. I don't think I was really watching Apostle Gabar back then as much as I'm watching now. But, despite eventually going to, or establishing classes, I didn't really learn too much of shit. Because it was focused on folly. I wanted to go to class. I like taking the test. I did good on those tests, man. I think I did good on the second Ezra 11 and 12 chapter test and the Daniel 11 chapter test. I wasn't too far off for someone that, just prayed to Yahweh Shem Yahshua to open my eyes and, do my best to, break it down. It says, don't accept someone as a friend too quickly. Don't trust people based on words alone. Time, adversity, and consistency reveal character. And I believe I've been consistent for these past going on 16 years. It says some people are friends for their own occasion. Proverbs 17:17, it says, a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. Right. And all the adversity that a lot of you had, who was right there saying that they stand by you, that they're going to have to get through them to get to you. And that drove you fucking mad. That drove you nuts. A lot of you. You was mad that I was a brother still standing with you in your adversity, man. All while you're telling me that the Most High hates me, I'm wasting my time, all this other bullshit, that badness, that you call shit. It says a real friend doesn't disappear when you're low. Even when me personally, I don't even disappear when we beefing. There's something, if any of y'all needed help, I'm gonna help. If it ain't just for me saying, I'm doing it for Yahweh Shem Yahshua's sake. And that's something I always said. Don't thank me, thank Yahweh Shem Yahshua. But how many of you are willing to do those things? It says adversity is the proving ground. Sirach shows the fake. Proverbs shows the real. Sirach chapter 12, 8-9. Paraphrased, a friend is only known in time of trouble. Enemies cannot hide in prosperity. It says trouble is the revealer. Prosperity is the mask. When you stop giving, you remove the mask. Sirach 6 and 7 through verse 8, it says, before you count someone as a friend, prove them first. So how do you even know these? Man, I mean, that's kind of retarded, though. You going into a situation and you automatically thinking that they're righteous. What's the difference between someone going to the ISUPK or IUICC or GOC or any of these acronym names, man? And you getting on them for being led astray, but You don't expect anyone that follows you to be testing you. That's crazy. That's kind of, I don't know. That seems a little double minded. You got to prove, you got to test, you got to try everything, everyone, man. You know? Because there's a lot of wicked people. There's a lot of wicked niggas. There's more wicked people than there are righteous. You know, when I was doing the math, give or take for, what Esau says as far as the census, there's like 80 million wicked niggas in America, man. Which that number includes, Latinos and indigenous. And if you do the 1/3 of that, well, really, there's 119. They say Jake in America. 1/3 of that is just gonna be 40 compared to 80, man. So there's gonna be a lot more niggas than there is gonna be righteous men. It says, before you count someone as a friend, prove them first. Some are friends for a season, not for the long haul. And, I see that. I've seen that and witnessed that, experienced that. A lot of these dudes are just demons. And, with some of them, I don't have the intent of dealing with them until the kingdom when they're in their right mind. But on this side, man, their bridge is burned. And they can't keep my name out of their mouth. Not even these demons on the left hand side in the world that don't have nothing to do with the truth can't keep my name out their mouth. It says the hey, my seriousness for this truth in Yahweh Hashem Yahushua is deadly serious, man. I'll just leave it like that. It says the Bible teaches vetting, not blind trust. Money is one of the most highest testing tools. Sirach 29 shows the test in action. Money reveals a whole lot, man. It reveals a whole lot. This is St. John chapter 6, verse 26. It says, Yahweh Shah said the people followed him not for the miracles, but because they ate of the loaves. And that's a lot of you niggas in this truth. Even Yahweh Shah had benefit-based followers. A lot of you was happy when I left because now you could be the nigga that you once was. Somebody was gonna pick up the tab for you to be a fucking miscreant. Hence the reason why you never uh, did anything beneficial to the truth. What benefit did you bring to the truth? What value did you bring? It says when the benefits stopped, the crowd left. Yeah, so when I stopped paying for all that fellowship, that's when, see, now he has the Scopeo on him. You see? You see? Man, I test people all the time, man. I just act this way. I act dumb. Does not a serpent quarrel in the corner of a room while all the rats run around thinking it's dead, thinking it's dumb, thinking it's not hungry? It says, same principle, withdraw the benefit, reveal the heart. And that's something that Yahweh Shem shall do to everybody, man. You know, the Most High should put the spirit out there. No more camps. Everybody for himself. Let's see how many of you will go out there and teach and continue to teach on your own, man. That will be a sifter like a motherfucker, man. If the Yahweh Shem shall put the spirit and apostle to Tahar to declare that everybody needs to go out and teach by themselves for what? I'll give it a month. I'll give it like 2 or 3 months. See if you can go out there by yourself for 2 to 3 months. And I bet you half of you niggas will go right back into the fucking world. Guaranteed. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 10, it says the love of money is the root of all evil. It says not money itself, the love of it. Sirach 29 shows people who love money more than loyalty. Their actions expose their heart. It says theme sentences, GMS style, money is a spiritual sifter. Sirach 29 shows how people act when they want something. Hey, you know what? Even make it make it even a week and see how many people fall out because they don't want to go out there on the highways and hedges themselves. Everybody that's been in the truth 3 years and up. Matter of nah, I'll say, yeah, make it 3 years and up. See if you can go out there a week or two, preferably 2 to 3 months, and see if you can do the work by yourself, man. See if you really in this for your how about Shem Shah, or you in it for some bullshit, man. Because there's gonna be a time where the Most High is gonna eliminate all these camps. And it's just gonna be if you're the elect or not. It says money is spiritual sifter. Sirach 29 shows how people act when they want something. Proverbs shows how people act when you have nothing. Yahweh Shai shows how people act when the benefits stop. Fake friends are seasonal. Sirach 6, chapter 6, 7 through 8. Some are friends for convenience. Sirach 29, they vanish when the money stops. And you know how I know that we're not friends, we were never friends, we were enemies? Is because the past 13 years, all that bullshit, that so-called rebuke, never once have you tried to build somebody back up. And does not that what the scriptures say? Especially those that are saying the same thing, going out on the highways and hedges, calling on the same name, praying onto the same name, having the same elders. Never once did none of you fucking niggas take the time, or maybe we should stop rebuking them and try to build them back up and restore them. It says real friends are covenant based. Proverbs 17 and 17, a brother is born for adversity. And where were all those niggas that left that camp, man? When y'all were going through all that shit. Mind you, I was out of that shit before all that happened. And despite me being outside, I was still on the front line defending. because it's not really anything that got to do with an organization as a whole. You know, my gripe is all more so personal than with any particular organization or doctrine. You know, meaning I don't have a problem with Great Millstone, the teachings, the elders, the order, or anything of that nature. I'm just calling a spade a spade. There's a lot of wicked niggas in this truth. There's a lot of wicked niggas in GMS, as you're starting to see. It says real friends are covenant based. Proverbs 17:17. A brother is born for adversity. Real loyalty is proven in lack, not abundance. The Most High uses lack as a test. He removes resources to expose hearts. He reveals who is truly with you. So yeah, money is a revealer too, man. And one thing that a lot of you don't understand about me is I don't play fucking checkers, man. I I don't play checkers at all, man. I always play chess. And I'm not saying that to be cliche or anything like that. I'm quiet for a reason. I observe for a reason. I analyze. I run everything through with the scriptures. Sometimes, you know, I admit I sometimes step the line. Sometimes I admit that, you know. But after 13 years of your bullshit, hey, sometimes, people snap, but with that, I hope at least one brother of the elect was edified. And I hope you got something out of this, you know. Uh, and with that, I'm going to say shalom.